Hello, Kaushal. So, are you able to see me and hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I think you will also be seeing the recorder button on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure. So the slides are not in full screen mode. That's all right. Okay. So I hope we are set and the recording is also on. Okay. Sorry all for the delay. Yeah. Welcome to the 8th class and good afternoon to all. First of all, I hope that all of you and your families are doing okay. We keep hearing and I keep getting emails from you, some of my TAs in the team, and it's really a difficult situation. Let's all make sure that we stay safe and carry on as much as possible with our academic duties as much as possible. Okay, so coming back to our class. So what we have done till now in the first 2 weeks are learning some basics of the C programming language. We have seen operators, especially arithmetic operators, relational operators, and logical operators. And these relational and logical operators were useful in the single selection and the double selection, that is if and as well as if else statements that we have learned. So in this week, what we are going to do is we are going to look at another way of doing this selection, which is called the multiple selection, which we will introduce today, which is the switch statement. And then we will move on to loops, which I believe is the heart of programming. So again, I know that you know loops, but we will quickly cover them so that we make sure that we all are on the same page. And then there are some, again, just like what we had remarks in if else, and we looked at, we did a lot of nitpicking and made sure that all the details were covered. We will also do the same for the loops that we are loop constructs that we are going to introduce. And then we are also going to talk about these statements break and continue, which allow you to modify the flow control, which are also very useful statements. So before I get into the technical part of the class, I want to share with you the statistics regarding the feedback. So I thank all of you who have filled in this feedback that I had circulated. So just for you to know what is the overall feedback, you of course know your individual answers to the questions. So there were a couple of questions. The first was about the pace of the class, and I'm happy that more than 80% of the people think that it is either 3 or 4. It is for some of you it is slow, I know that, but given that the majority thinks that it is at the right pace, I think we'll stick to this pace of the class. Topics covered in the class is also on the right hand side. I would have liked it even on the right hand side, but yeah, I understand that for some of you it is some of the things are repetitive and possibly a little boring. But again, in the interest of everybody, we will have to cover all the details, and I am certainly covering them at a faster pace than what I would have done in a class where people did not have a background of programming. So again, I feel that the feedback tells us that the topics are also fairly okay. Some of you may want some more advanced topics, but we will still have to we'll still have to stay with all the details that we have to cover. Okay, so about the labs, again, I'm very happy that people find the labs interesting. And the TA support is also extremely good. I'm really very fortunate and thankful to all my TAs that they are lending this great support that they are giving us. All of them are MTech students. They have their academic duties and still they are making sure that they are able to help us in the course. So I'm very happy about the TA support. There are a few who say that there is some improvement required, but I did not see concrete suggestions. So I do not see actionable items here. So this is the feedback. 124 out of 180 odd have filled in. This is a very good fraction. I'm going to close it today at end of day. If you still want to fill in the feedback by 5 p.m. or something, you can fill in the feedback, and I certainly look at all the detailed comments. but here are a few selected comments that I have listed on the slide. They are not exactly copied. There are long comments and there are many other comments. So if your comment doesn't come up here, don't feel bad. But what I want to show is there are these contradictory comments saying that I have shifted from Python to C, so please go slow. Whereas I have seen this material, so do not, you don't have to teach from scratch. So I see the conflict that some of you are facing. So if you feel that I am going fast, you can slow me down. If you feel particularly that these topics are repetitive, it's too much, then please send an email to me. If you feel difficult sending email, say, because it's not anonymized, send it via somebody whom you think is your class representative. So I'll be happy to take that. And if you feel like sending it to me personally, I'll also be happy to receive that feedback. So one thing that is actionable, and I'll try this in today and the classes is in future, is more coding in the class. So you want me to do coding in repl.it, I'll try to do that. I just am a little reluctant because I need to switch and make sure that I share the correct thing, but I'll make sure that we do more coding. Give projects or practice problems. Practice problems certainly will hand over to you, and in the labs we'll give out more practice problems. That is easy for us. Projects I can give out, but I won't be able to grade them. So some of you have suggested that give out some smaller group projects. We can list out some things that can be done in the middle or towards the end of the class, but we won't have time or the bandwidth to grade them. So this last comment is like, I want to stress that yes, you have been taught C++ in your 11th and 12th possibly, but you may not have been taught some of the things like classes, streams, or even the object-oriented part of C++. But that is not something that we can cover in the course. The course is Introduction to Programming using C, so we will stick to C. So we cannot teach streams, classes, or object-oriented parts of the C++ language. So I'm sorry about this, but in this course that's not something that is expected. So this is about the feedback. Anything else that anybody wants to bring out, or something that is missed out here? Again, as I said, these are selected comments, not that I could print out all. I mean, I did not take out all of them, but I have read through each one of them, and I'll make sure that the actionable items are taken care of. So once again, thanks all for giving the feedback, and I'll close it today around at 5 p.m. So if you want to fill in the feedback, please feel free to do so before 5 p.m. Okay, so having said that, let's get to the technical part of the class. Okay, so just to remind ourselves where we were, in the last class, we spent a good amount of time with a simple task of printing some messages based on a given input. The input was a single character, which was expected to be one of W, A, and B, and the output was one of these things. That is, okay, so depending on what the input is, it is either low attendance or the marks range or the invalid input. And we wrote down a correct program using if else. We also deliberately made some errors to exhibit what are the things that can go wrong. And just to remind you, we made sure that we understand where does the if else bind if there are multiple if statements and a single else. We also did short circuiting of the expressions that happen. Short circuiting that happens when you have logical operators in an expression that is done the test expression. We also saw something like mistaking the assignment operator and the equal to relational operator. These are the things that we looked at, and these will keep coming up in our discussions in future also. So what we will do today is, this is a good use case for writing the program using what is called as a multiple selection statement, that is a switch statement. And I will introduce the syntax as well as the semantics of the switch statement. and then we will write this same program using the switch statement rather than the if else statement. Okay, so just to remind you, this is our correct program using if else. So we said if the input is one of W or A or B, then go inside this if block, which is shown all the way here, and highlighting. Yeah, so all the way here, and then if it is not one of them, then print invalid character. And then once you know that the character is valid, you go and test what the character is. Here is where we said that instead of doing input is equal to W, you could say W is equal to input. This was done towards the last part of the class in the last class, right? So this was our program. Now what I want to show is okay, so is there some question here, Srivatsan? Hello? Yeah, so I am unable to hear. Okay, so I'll assume that there is no question. Okay, so this is the syntax of the switch construct. So this switch, all the things that are written in bold are actually the keywords. So switch is a keyword which tells you this command. It has some expression, and depending on what this expression evaluates, you are going to check out whether it evaluates to these constant expressions, which is constant expression 1, constant expression 2, and so on. You can have multiple expressions, and that is why this is called a multiple selection statement. If this expression evaluates to this constant expression 1, then the statements that are written after this constant expression 1 are going to get executed. In fact, I have written in this template only once. I mean, I have written statements 1, which represent that there can be multiple statements that you can execute after this expression matches with this constant expression. And typically it is followed by a break, which says that after these after these statements are done, just go outside the switch and execute whatever is after the switch, right? So this is how what is the syntax of the switch statement. I'll just say whatever I have said in the semantics of the switch statement. I am just iterating it again. So it is evaluate this expression, whatever is here. If it matches with constant expression I, execute the statements that are there in statements I. Actually, it will execute it as long as you have not found a break. But at the moment, we have assumed that all these statements are terminated or ended by a break. Therefore, it will stop these statements and go out of the switch. And if none of these constant expressions are matched, then in fact you execute whatever is in the default, that is the statements def or the default ones, and then come out, right? So this is the syntax as well as the semantics of the switch statement. Are there any questions here? Okay, so I don't see questions on this part. So okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to write this as the old task as a set of statements which are using this switch statement. So as usual, we did a scanf of the character. So C input is our character. So we have taken %C and input, and remember this and here. Now this input is what we want to test, and we want to test what is the value of this input. If the value of the input turns out to be W, as we have seen, we want to say that it is an attendance which is below 85%. If it is A, print out something, and so on. So we are just saying case. This is a single quotes W, which says that it is a character constant. This is single quotes A, which is again the character A, B, and then default, right? So this is what will have the exact same behavior what you wanted for your program and what we had written using the if else. So Yeah, I'll stop here, let you stare at the program and see what are the chat questions. Okay, so one of the questions is default compulsory? We'll come to it. No, it is not compulsory. Should the default always be written in the end? Again, for good programming practices, it should be written in the end. It need not be always written in the end. But again, like we have said, there are some things that you want to write in terms of readability. You'll write that in the end. Okay, any questions or anything? Okay, so I want here for people to tell me whether you want me to code this program in REPL.it. I mean, okay, if you want this program to be written down and executed in REPL.it, or please tell me, I'll do that. Please write out in the chat message if you want, and you can say +1 so that I see that how many I see. Okay, so there is one question from Sudeep. Yeah, Sudeep, can you ask your question, because you are just saying single quote? I don't understand the question.
Case statements that single quotes add. Okay, like will be not there be double quotes on W?
No, there won't be double quotes. Yeah, so it won't be double quotes. It's a this represents a character constant, which is the character W, and it doesn't mean the string W, which will be written by double quotes. So double quotes is not allowed. Yeah. So one of the questions is, can the statements for each case have multiple lines? If yes, how to write it? Yes, it can have multiple lines. We'll come to it in a minute. So right, I'll come to that question.
Ma'am, I had a doubt.
Yes.
Is indentation necessary after each case?
No, indentation does not mean anything. As I had said earlier, indentation does not mean you can write this printf just here after the colon that I have written. You can write it to the left of this, and it doesn't matter. It does not matter at all, right?
Okay.
So I'll also go through examples where it will illustrate what happens if the break is not there and so on. So I also saw that there are some yes for print, type out the program. I'll just go over the few things and then we will type out this program and a slight variant of that program. So I saw only 2 people saying yes, please write it. So I'm just going to hold on, right? Okay. If there is no break in the case W and the input is W, yes, I'll come to these questions. These are good questions. I'll come to it. Okay. So the first question is that one of the questions was that.
Hello,
Yes.
it's a small
Yes.
doubt, ma'am. I mean, in every
Yes.
case, there are 2 statements given, right? A printf and a break statement, ma'am. So shouldn't there be curly braces?
Correct. So that is why yeah, this is also a good question. It is there on the slides coming up. So just hold on for a minute, right? Yeah, I'll come to it. Okay. So you see this here, right? So the first question is, if there was a question, if there are multiple statements that I want to execute, how do I execute them, and how should I write them, right? So this is a small snippet that I have given. Switch input. If the case is W, you have to say attendance is below 85%. You need to repeat the course, right? These are the 2 statements, and I have deliberately written them down in 2 different printfs. So you can write them like this, and then there is a break here. And just for readability, I have again put in these braces. As you will see in the slide, it is explicitly written that the brackets or the braces after the case W are not required. They are added for readability. And I will mention what happens if the break is not there, and it will clarify how these statements are executed. So does that answer the question how multiple statements can be written down? You can write down how many ever statements. You can also have a if then else. You can have a while loop here. I mean, we'll come to that, but you can have loops here. You can do whatever you want. In this part, if you like, you can put in these braces for your readability, but otherwise it is not required. Okay, so this is the first part of the question. The second part is missing break, right? So suppose you forget to write or you don't write intentionally the break, what happens? So let's see this program. This is the same program that we had written, except that the first two lines, the break is not there. Okay, so what it is going to do is, it is going to check this expression, which is input, which is a character. It will check the value of this input. If it is equal to W, it is going to execute whatever is there, and it is going to fall through the cases. So what it means is, whatever, wherever it is the first time it matches the case, it is going to fall through and write down and execute whatever is below it in the sequence. So for example, if the input is equal to W, it is going to print attendance is below 85, which is what we want. And then it is not going to break out of that case. So it is going to actually say, it is not going to test again whether case is equal to A. It is going to simply say, simply execute this printf marks is between 90 and 100. It is, since there is no break, it is again going to fall through and print, and also printf marks is between 80 and 90, and then break, and then go out and execute whatever is in this part, which is below the below in this part, right? So this is how the statements execute. And that is why when you write multiple statements, a bracket is not required, because as long as you don't encounter a break, it is going to keep continuing to execute the statement. So I'll go back to this slide where I have this. If it matches constant expression I, then it executes the statements I and following, as long as an explicit break is not encountered. So this is why those braces are unnecessary here, as I have said. And this is the behavior of this program when it when you do not have the break. Yeah, so does it answer the two questions that somebody had?
Ma'am, if there is no break at all in any cases, will the default statement will be also printed or not?
Yes, the default will also be printed out. It will also be printed out. So it is just this whole set of sequences, statements are there. As long as you don't break, you will just continue executing those. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay, so can the input, yeah. So I'll come to that. Can the input be any data type? I'll come to that. If A is the input to the last two statements. Yeah, yes, okay. Yeah, good. So the question is, if for this program, if A is the input, then it will check the input. It will not match W. So this statement is not executed. I mean, printf attendance is below 85 is not printed out. However, it matches this A, therefore it is going to print out this marks is between 90 and 100, and it will also print out marks is between 80 and 90 and then break. Yes. So I think Shashank, right? You have pointed this out. Yeah, this is the correct behavior. Okay. So one more thing that I want to mention is that while this break, the missing break is something that we find, I mean, it is quite annoying if we forget to write the missing break, but this missing break can also be exploited in a slightly, in the scenarios like the following. So let's say that you don't care about the case of the input. I mean, the case is you are not sensitive to the case of the input. You don't care about whether it is W, little w or capital W. Then you are going to have this case W, which is capital W, in which case you are doing nothing and you don't have a break. So you don't fall down from here. I mean, you don't fall out of this switch statements, but you go to the case where it is where the executions have to be done for where the statements are written for this little w, and the little w also has the same thing because you are not sensitive to case. So it is saying that it is printf attendance is below 85, and then there is a break. So I mean, this amounts to saying that if the input is equal to capital W or the input is equal to little w, then we are going to have attendance is below 85. And then don't print anything else, of course. I mean, that is what is the message you wanted to give. Or if the input is little a or capital A, then marks is between 90 and 100. And of course, you would have done the same thing for B. I have skipped it for the sake of brevity. So yeah. So this is how this missing break can also be exploited. Yes.
Ma'am, so if the input is W, then both the cases, case 1 and case 2, both are correct, ma'am. Like it's not case sensitive, right? Yeah, this one.
Sorry, say it again.
Ma'am, the input variable, if we input the value of again the input as W,
is it capital W or a small w?
It's not case sensitive, right? It doesn't really matter.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Yes.
So both the cases are true.
No, both the cases are not fulfilled, right? So it checks whether, I mean, it checks that this, so when it is, okay, so you're saying that you will input, but you will always input one of them, right? Either capital W or small w. Correct? So, so if you have input capital W, then only this is getting matched. But because there is no break, you are going to fall down. It is not matching little w.
Okay,
similarly, if you input little w, okay, so one thing to do here is you can write a printf statement. I mean, printf %c input, or printf the input is capital W and printf input is small little w or something like that. You will see that this statement won't get executed when you input little w, right? So printf the input is capital W won't get executed when you have little w, right? On the other hand, when you have when you have capital W, of course it matches, therefore it goes there, but it just falls down. Is it clear, Raghav, right?
No, it was Kanikeshwar. That's fine. Yes, ma'am. It's clear, ma'am.
Okay, Kanikeshwar, sorry. Yeah, so is it clear, your doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure. Okay, so there are other questions like, yeah, we cannot use expressions like A or A and W or W. It has to, so I'll come to that. It is a constant expression. So actually I think W or W also will not work. We can try that out. Okay. So even if it is it's caps or small, you don't need to write code for both. Yeah. So it is, I mean, just like what you would have done in if input is equal to capital W or input is equal to little w, do something, right? That is exactly what it is doing, but it is doing it in a very subtle way. I mean, why am I saying it in a subtle way? Because it is matched. When it is capital W, it does match capital W, but there is nothing to do because you have not written anything. And then it falls through and then does whatever is to be done in little w and then breaks. That is the behavior of the program. Yes. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Ma'am, it would be the same if the fourth case was the second case, right? Like it would print marks between 90 to 100 and then break.
Sorry, so I didn't get the second case was the fourth case. I didn't get.
Ma'am, if the fourth case was replaced by the second case and the
so
input
fourth
was
case meaning wait, hold on. Fourth case is little a, right?
Yes,
case little a,
yeah,
okay, is replaced by
the second one.
Second is little w.
Yes.
Okay. So, and what is your input?
Capital W.
Okay. So, so you don't have this case, is it?
Like interchange, ma'am. Like case A, print F, marks between 90 to 100. That's replaced with case little w, print F, attendance is below 85%.
Okay. So, yeah, who is it? Sorry, I missed it.
Ishtartha, ma'am.
Ishtartha. So, Ishtartha, if I understand correctly, you want case here I should write A, but not change the printf statement. Here
Change
I should
printf
write,
also.
oh, okay. So you are changing printf, but you are combining capital W and little a, capital A and little w. Is that what
Yes,
I
ma'am.
understand?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So now your input is capital W.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Okay, very nice question. I understand it now. So what you are saying is, if it were capital W and you had written anything else, little a also, but you had written marks is between 90 and 100 here, yes, even if you give capital W, it will fall through here and say attendance is between 90 and 100. And similarly, I think you would be giving a capital A here and it will let it fall through little w, right? That is what is your intent.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So I don't know if it is clear to the rest of the class, but what you want to say is that it is not something that the compiler or the program understands that these are two same things, little w and small w. It is just falling through and executing that, and that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. 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 Okay. Any other remark or comment?
Ma'am, you gave another example for switch case where you put break inside the curly braces. Like you gave an example where you put a statement like one case statement inside.
Here.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you put the break inside a curly brace, the break will only skip the curly brace, right? It will still come out and execute the.
No. The break will skip and come to. It is this set of statements that are getting executed.
Yes, ma'am. Like after break, where will the flow of control be? Will it be at case the next case, or will it be at the end of the?
No, it will break to this last place where it is outside. I don't know if you see my pointer. It is going to be out of that.
Okay, ma'am. Can one more doubt? Like, can there be two case like case W and one execution, and again case W and other say like some other execution?
No. I think the compiler itself will give an error.
Yeah. Okay, fine. It will be compile time error, right?
Yes, we can again test that, but yeah, it will be a compile time error.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes. So I'll just make the last comment about the this thing. Yeah, last or two more comments. So there is this default that we have been writing here. That is something that is optional. If you don't have a default, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen in the sense it is not a compile time error. If your inputs don't match with any of them, the program is silently going to terminate or fall down to this place where it will execute the remaining statements. So it is not going to just give the error message. That's all. So default is something that is optional. It need not be given. And as somebody had asked in the earlier part of the class, default need not be written as a last statement, but it is typically written as a last statement. Okay. So one important thing that I want to bring out is these, whatever we have written there in front of the case, these are constant integral case values. For example, valid things that are allowed are integer values like case. Suppose your input is an integer. Instead of what we had as a character, we could have had input as an integer from the user, and then we could have had a menu based program where if you input 1, you are supposed to do something, just like when you go to the bank, right? You are going to print, you are going to type in some things like 1, 2, 3 for different menus, or you have on the phone you have menu based programs. So similarly you could have this, and then you are going to have case 1, case 2, case 3 and so on. These are valid things. In fact, case 4 plus 2 will also work, and this kind of a thing where case is in the single quotes A is also a valid thing. So we have seen these. What are invalid are expressions like case 2.3, which is not a constant integral value. Case this colon is wrongly placed, but case my int, where my int is a variable, so I should have put the colon after the my int. My int is an integer variable, that is not allowed because it's not constant. Similarly, somebody had already asked case is equal case double quotes A, which is a string and not a constant integral value. That is also something which is not allowed. So you should have constant integral values that you want to test. Only then you can use this switch statement. So before we try out some things on REPL.it, I want to make a following remark that all that we can do using switch, you can always write using if else. So I think in the initial part of the initial parts of the slides, somebody had pointed out, can we write that if the initial program which we had written, there is a big or that we wrote initially and then said inside that if we in the body of the if part we said if it is equal to A, do this, if it is equal to B, do this. Instead of that, can we write if else? Yes, you can write if else. Just that when there are several constant values that you are expecting and different constant values, it is easier to write this switch. So this switch is something that is a special way of multiple selection. You can always do this using if else. It is just one more way of doing it, but it is not that whatever you can do using if else you can do it using switch. So this is what I wanted to remark. Okay, any questions or anything?
Could you
Ma'am,
please explain why that 2.3 is invalid once again?
Okay, so what I am saying is that in this case, you can write a constant integral value, right? So is 2.3 a constant integral value?
Okay, it's
Yeah.
a float value.
Yes. Yeah.
ma'am, can't we use less than or greater than symbol here in case?
Sorry, where do you want less than or greater than?
Here, ma'am, in case conditions, ma'am. Suppose I
No,
want to
no.
print.
No, you cannot check test expression kind of a thing, right? Relational operators and so on. That's what is the question.
Yes, ma'am. That's all.
No, you cannot use that. You need to, as I said, you need to have a constant integral value. Otherwise, it will be a compile time error.
Ma'am, if
Okay.
we declare a variable as a constant variable, then can we use it in the case statement?
I am not sure. We can try it out. Yeah. I think it may, I believe it may not work, but we can try it out. I am not sure. Yeah. Okay. So what we will do is, or as some of you have requested, and I'll go to REPL.it. I'm going to type in a small program. We can test out some of the things that you are interested in testing. And then our next task is going to be, this is something we are going to write a small, very, very tiny mini calculator program using the switch. And then we are going to introduce the first looping command, which will be helpful for us to really make it look like a calculator, right? So it's going to be a really tiny calculator, but we are going to code it from scratch and write down that calculator in the class, right? So before I do that, let me just stop sharing this. I'm going to go to REPL.it and first type out a small switch program, a smaller version of this, and then take your questions. We can try out some of the things if you want. Okay. So Kaushal, please tell me if my screen shows REPL.it in a minute, right? Okay. So just excuse me for a minute. So I get some noise from somebody. Can everybody mute yourself? Okay. Yes. So Kaushal, do you see the REPL.it view?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, so I hope that all of you are now very familiar with this. I'm going to write the code in a file called switch dot. So my switch dot C, and so this is an editor that I am more familiar with, but I have just created this file and I am going to write this program here. So it's an empty file at the moment. So I'm writing from scratch. So I'm not going to write the message that the program asks us to print, but I'm just going to print some indicative message. So it auto completes some of the things. That is my difficulty. It's also slightly slow. Okay, so I'm just going to have two inputs, and then I say default is yeah. So this is almost the program that we had written, except the messages were different, and there was also a case W. So any questions or comments on this? Anything else that you, okay, so let's first make sure that this program compiles. Okay, so it has compiled quietly. I want to remind everybody, if you have GCC minus myswitch.c, this automatically creates the a.out. Instead, if you want your program to be called as switch PRG, which is a short form for program, then your output executable is going to be called as switch PRG, and that is what is going to be the one which is output. So you, instead of doing /a.out, I'm going to do switch PRG, and it is waiting for the input. So if I say A, it is going to print that the input is A. If I say B, it is going to print out B. If I say something else, any character, let's say dot, it will say error. So this program is what this is the behavior of the program. Yeah, so some people had some questions or something that you want to try, please let me know. Okay. Yes. Yes, somebody had a question.
Using switch, we can't compare like greater than. We can only compare for equality.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you be a little louder?
Hello, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Using switch, we can compare only for equality, not for greater than or equality
No,
like that.
we cannot compare for greater than, less than. We can compare only for equality.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Satyajit, right? Yeah. Yes. So I think there was one question which was saying that it is const char z, right? That is what is your question. And you wanted to say, actually, let's also initialize Z to something like capital Z. So this was one of the questions that somebody had asked, and we can test it out. What happens when you say case Z, right? And printf. Okay. So I think this was one of the suggestions, right? So let's just run GCC on this. This is called my switch. Yeah. So this, yeah. So this case, yes. So let me.
If it is outside the slash and is outside the codes, will it still work?
Okay, okay. Yeah. That is a mistake on my part. Sorry. Thank you for pointing it. That is an incorrect thing. Okay, so I will. So,
ma'am, and shouldn't Z be in single quotes, ma'am?
yeah, just let's finish this. So, so this itself, right? Const char Z is equal to capital Z. This itself doesn't work because it wants this to be a constant integral value. Yes. So somebody else had something. So I think Shwetika or somebody had asked this question, right? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Harish, you had some question.
No, ma'am, I didn't see it properly, ma'am.
Okay, you are able to see it now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So now I hope all the, yeah, you can of course try out. I'm going to remove this statement because this won't go through. So this is not something that is allowed. So this was our previous program which will work correctly, and just, yeah. So I want to, this is what we have already said. If you remove this break, then you are going to have the behavior that is it is just like you don't care between A and B, but you are going to print out both the messages. So if I give A, it is going to print out the input is A, input is B. If you give B, then of course it will print out only what is in B, right? And if I remove this break, then it will print out input is B as well as error. Yeah, so this is the behavior. We have already discussed this. Yeah, so I think this is all that I wanted to say for this example. Now I want us to design a simple calculator, which I'll call a mini calculator, which will do the following. It will just have the following. So I'll also write down here in this thing. So it will have, instead of this input, I'm going to call it operand. It is going to take one operand, which is a binary operation, and it is going to take two integral inputs just for the sake of it. So I'll call them int x and int y. So these are the two inputs that I'm going to take, and depending on what is the operation, it is going to print out the value of that operation for the two operands that you give, right? So that is a very, very basic calculator. So that is what we are going to write down using this switch command that we have learned. So what I want you to do is take a minute, think about how will you write this down, what are the things that you need, and let's also have that these are our operations. So it's not difficult. Plus, minus, let's say star, div, and mod. These are the 5 operators that we have. These are the things that we want to parse. If the operator is one of these, you do the appropriate operation on the two inputs and output the value of that operation on the two inputs. And if it is not one of them, you just say that it is an erroneous input, right? That's all. Okay. So people have already started writing. Okay. So I'll just take questions if there are any. And in the meantime, all of you can start just writing this program. You can also use REPL and write it, or you can write it in your notebooks. Okay, so yeah, the question is, should it be case star or case star? So I will come to it, Shashank. We will see what it is. Okay, so somebody has typed out the whole program already. Okay, yeah, good. So some people have typed out the program. That is fine. Okay, so one of you has said that create cases 1, 2, 3, 4 for add, sub, multiplication, division. So that is also fine, but our calculator will just switch on the case. I mean, the way at least I thought about it is the calculator will switch only on the operator OP rather than asking the user to print, I mean, give 1, 2, 3, 4 as the operation. It gives just 3 inputs. One is the operation, the two are the operands, which are x and y, right? So of course we need some scanf statements. I'm just going to write them. Of course there should be a printf also, but yeah, okay, I'll write the printf as well so that it becomes a slightly better user interface. Yeah, /t is simply for giving the tab. You are aware of that now. Yeah, so I have taken the operator and then so maybe I'll simply take this program and type it here, which is easier for me in the VI editor. So Kaushal, you are able to see what I'm typing in the VI editor on the this sides, right? I mean, that is visible to you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this use bad. Okay, I think I'll do better with the text editor. Okay, so we have the inputs x, y, and op, and then we simply are going to switch on the operation. And okay, so op is one of the different values that we have. Let's write it only for, let's say, plus, div, and mod, and the remaining you can of course complete, right? So that is something that you should be able to do. So I'm just going to write a printf message x plus y is equal to, and it is %d, and this is the first time we are doing something inside the here. So what we have been doing till now is printing a value which was already which was a variable. Here is the first time we are actually writing an expression which contains the arithmetic operator plus, and we are doing it in the printf this thing itself, which is a valid thing to do. So you can also call a function here if at all it is required, and so on. So this is something that you may be knowing, but I just wanted to bring it out. Okay, so x by y is equal to %d. Yeah, and of course there is one more case here, which is case mod. Okay, which is printf. Yeah, since % is something which is a special thing, I'm just going to use x mod y is equal to %d / n, then x mod y. Right, so this is how our program will look like. It's not complete, but this is how the program is. Error in operator. Okay. So any comments or questions here? Somebody had this question whether I should be writing a single code
tell.
for the. Sorry. Yeah, it is a single code for this thing, or it is without the single code. It has to be with a single code. Yeah. So Ishtartha, you had some question?
No, ma'am, I unmuted by mistake.
Okay, sure. So we'll just compile this program here, myswitch.c. Okay, so there are some errors. So what have I written? Okay, so these are copy mistakes. Sorry about this. Yeah, and there is some indentation that is gone. I don't see the correct this thing, but okay. So let's see whether the. Yeah, so now this program has compiled. It will just take in, I mean, we can run the program. It's since I did not give an explicit output, it is writing it to a.out, and it is asking for the operator. So Kaushal, are you able to see the execution?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so plus, and if I give any input, it is going to say x plus y is equal to 0. Since I did not give a /n, it is also it's just printing it there, and the prompt is again given out. So slightly better output. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that I want to bring out is if the operator is diff, and if I say 2 and let's say 3, then you see that it is 2 by 3, which is 0. So do you want this input? Do you want this output, and what do you want the output, and how do you correct it? Yeah.
Can we give a float value like %f instead of d? Then we'll get the
Okay,
correct.
so let's try to do that. So the one suggestion is if you do %f here and try to do it.
Also put into 1.0.
So
X
just
into
hold
1.0.
on. Yeah, Arjun, just hold on. Let's see what happens when you do this. So you should not run it with a.out because you have not compiled the program. So okay. So it already tells you a warning. I hope you see this. There is already a warning which says that x by y is always going to get evaluated as an integer because x and y are integers here. So even if you print you can, I mean, this is a warning. So you can still run the program, and if you do a.out and give the operator / and 2 and 3, you'll still get a 0.00, so you don't get the desired input. So what you want is that one of these should be converted into a float. So you get, one of the ways to do this is possibly multiply it by 1.0, and this will change it to a float, and then divide it by y. If you do this, you are going to get hopefully what you desire. I think this was your suggestion, Arjun.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and this is what you would want. Again, if you want appropriate precision, you can put point and so on. So this is not the purpose of the example, so I'm not going to spend time on that. Okay, so one question is, can we write a single scanf statement that scans all of it? Yes, you can write a single scanf statement. I also want to show one small, again, it's not a very programming related thing, but these things which can lead to errors, and that is why I want to bring it out to your attention. So I mean, all of this program is correct, but let's say that I just do the following. I take the first two inputs x and y, and then do this operator, right? This is also a valid thing to do. There's nothing, just changing the order of x, y, and this thing. And I just try to run the program. So let me first compile this. So yeah, so it does, of course, it does not have any compile time error. Let's just run the program. So it says enter the first input. Let's say it's 2, enter the second input 3, and then if you, even before you can do anything for enter the operator, it has taken some operator and it says error in operator, and it has kind of come out, right? So you did not even have a chance to enter the operator. The reason that is happening is that as soon as you enter 3 and you enter an /n, or the enter that you are pressing, that gets recorded for the characters OP that you have, and that is something that is not caught by the cases. So therefore it falls into this error in the operator. So how can you change this? I mean, how does this program work anytime correctly? Yes, if you give 2, you give 3, and even if you give space is a valid character. So therefore scanf is going to take in the op space, which will again be an invalid operand for you. So if you give 3 plus, then it will calculate what you want. Similarly, if you give something like say 40 10, and then if you want to do a mod, then you give like this, then you get the desired operator. So this is something which is again slightly nasty about this scanf and the characters. How do you correct this? You can give a get char here and eat up that character, extra character, which is that /n which is obtained by that enter, and then you can run this program. So this is something which is not related to do with programming, but these are the errors that you will encounter when you write this program in this way. Yeah, just let me finish just a minute. Let me just show that this runs correctly. And now you can give this plus and then it will be fine. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to say. This last part is something which is about the scanf and that enter being taken up as a character in this scanf rather than the actual operator. This is what I wanted to bring about. Okay. Yeah, so I'll take whatever is the question. Yes.
Yeah, can you tell again why this enter the operator was not taking our input?
Why does the end of the?
No, ma'am. Why didn't enter the operator statement didn't take our input, ma'am? That one can be tell again, ma'am.
Okay, sure. So I'll remove this get char, and that is when the behavior was bad. So when you are entering this 2, you are entering 2 as well as enter. You see that, right? You are going to you enter the character 2 and then enter, which is /n, right? So but the next input is a %d, right? This is the second input, which is a %d. So /n doesn't qualify for a valid %d character, right? %d input, because it expects an integer to be an input. So it ignores those invalid characters and actually waits for the input that you are giving. So that 3 is counted correctly, but after 3 you are again giving a /n. Now /n itself is a valid character, and the next input that you have is a character. So this doesn't happen for this program only. If you just write a program to take 2 input characters, C1 and C2, then you are going to say input the first character, then you are going to say enter, right? You will not even be able to enter the second character because enter will be treated as the second character. So you see the point, right? And this scanf is taking that enter is the second is the operand that you are operator that you are giving, and that is what is, so you are not even prompted to type in a input for the OP.
I
Does
have
it
a doubt.
answer? Yeah, just a minute. So
Oh, yeah,
somebody
sure,
who
sure.
asked this question.
Yes,
And,
ma'am. Yes, I got it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so ma'am, in C, generally statements are executed sequentially, right? So shouldn't the printf be taken before the scanf? Like why scanf would take the enter is fine, but why is printf coming after scanf?
Why is printf coming? So printf is not coming after the scanf, but sorry, I mean it is, so it has that extra thing in the buffer, right, which is the character. So it thinks that you have already entered that. So it's not
Fine.
jumping it.
Okay, got it.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so we are just on time. I'm going to stop the recording. I will, if I'll stop for a few minutes if you have any questions. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to stop sharing because this recorder is not working well for me.